Support comes from Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to sustainable and sound conservation of the state's forests, which support more than 41,000 Missouri jobs, resulting in a $10 billion industry. ChooseWood.com.
From St. Louis Public Radio. This is St. Louis on the Air.
You're going to go out into the ocean. Yeah, I know how to swim, but I'm also going to carry a life vest. It's the same. I'm going to be looked at as a threat regardless.
And me just overall wanting to feel safer.
I'd rather be a legally educated gun owner than to walk around without one.
But since they are in the home, it's something that was important to us.
I've heard some nightmare stories, and most of the nightmare stories that came out of St. Louis have come from people who are not responsible gun owners. I don't believe everybody should own a gun. I believe educated, responsible people should own firearms.
I'm Jeremy Goodwin. The rate of gun ownership has soared during the pandemic, and that includes African Americans who want information and training about being a responsible gun owner. Joining me in studio to talk about it is Chris Randall. He's a retired Marine and veteran of the Iraq War. He was also a police officer in St. Louis County for 9 years, and he founded Raider Defense Group. That's a firm that provides gun safety training. And in a little bit, we're also going to talk with one of his clients. Chris Randall of Raider Defense Group, welcome to the program.
Hi, Jeremy. Thanks for having me.
We're glad to have you. Can you tell me a bit about this organization, Raider Defense Group, and where it came from, what motivated you to get this going?
So, Raider Defense Group was really born out of just me trying to help my friends and family, become safe and be safe gun owners. And, all the way up until 2020, I was everybody's neighborhood gun guy. And I was the friend that has the guns, or the friend that knows how to shoot, the Marine, the cop, former cop. And when somebody wanted to go to the range, hey, I got this gun. Can you show me around it? And I was like, yeah, I didn't have a problem. I was already going to the range. I had a membership, and I was already going to be there. But then all the events of 2020 with the craziness of the politics and the pandemic and the ongoing violence against unarmed black men and black families, it caused this rush to all of these people. A lot of my friends and family were starting to go out and buy firearms. And it just came to a point where it was like, okay, how can I make this make sense? Where it's not fiscally hurting my pockets, but I can also help those around me. And so I ended up, starting this firm and wanting to formally protect and train those within my network and those within my social groups and outside of my social groups. It was a way for me to continue to protect and serve my community in a different way. And just by empowering and educating these people around me to be safe around the firearms.
Yeah. With your professional background and personal background, let me ask, how is gun ownership in this country experienced differently by African Americans compared to white people with guns?
Well, there's just been a systemic separation of Second Amendment to a culture from the black community than any other community that exists in America. It's caused this interaction where it's just taught as culturally within black families and the black community that guns are bad, stay away from guns, and it's pressed not only from outside cultures and outside communities, from the law enforcement community to media and just influence, but also internally that message is reinforced, where it's not reinforced and it's not stated that way in any other culture except for ours. And those negative reinforcements are only made solid and cemented through not just the killing of unarmed black men, but also just the media and the stories that are perpetuated around gun ownership within black families and within the black community. We're incarcerated at higher rates. We're prosecuted at totally differently. We're handled totally differently when firearms are a part of our situation, and it's just caused this negative connotation around gun ownership as a black person. And it's either you accept that this is the way things are going to be for you because you are black, or you educate and you fight against that and that stigma. And I think we fight against a lot of stigmas as black people, and this is just one that I'm choosing to raise my hand and step into the fight on.
Yeah, you mentioned the shooting of unarmed black men. We know that systemic racism has created a situation where black Americans, black St. Louisans, are more likely to be stopped by a police officer for one reason or another, and being unarmed does not guarantee one's safety in that kind of an encounter.
Absolutely.
So if that's a situation, what happens when you add a legally obtained gun into that situation? Is it more dangerous to walk around with a fully licensed legal gun if you're a black man in America?
It's dangerous regardless.
Yeah.
It's dangerous regardless. And I don't know, one of the ways I can kind of look at it is like, you're going to go out into the ocean. Yeah, I know how to swim, but I'm also going to carry a life vest, right? And it's like, am I going to survive 100 days in the ocean without I have a life vest on or not? Probably not, but I'd rather have one on me. And so it's the same method. It's like I'm going to be looked at as a threat regardless if I have a gun on me or not, but I'd rather be a legally educated gun owner than to walk around without one, because whatever is going to happen is going to happen regardless.
In a moment, I want to bring into the conversation someone who's been through your training. What kind of training do you offer? What do you do?
So I provide a series of services between basic CCW classes.
CCW.
CCW's concealed carry weapons licensing instruction that is required by the state of Missouri to obtain your concealed carry license, which is really the lowest level of training that exists. It's just the government's way, the state's way to legally say that you have heard this period of instruction, and a legally certified instructor has observed you in a range environment execute these safety rules, and you can put 20 rounds into a target. But the more substantial training that I provide is the one-on-one services. Do in-home training where I provide lessons in the home on basic firearms safety, basic firearms maintenance, and the ABCs of weapon ownership, whatever platform that you're firing on, whether it's the handgun pistol platform, shotgun platform, or a rifle platform. I provide the basic instruction in the home, and then we take it to a range and we apply all those principles, the classroom essentially portion of the lessons that we learned in the home, and we apply them live fire on the range. And then I really look at it as like a personal trainer for firearms. And so you can buy a gun and you can go out to a range, you can figure it out, and that's great. And that's what you want to do. That's just like if you want to lose some weight, go get a membership at Lifetime Fitness and go work out. But you're going to get closer to your goals if you hire a personal trainer to help guide you along that process. And so that's kind of what I do.
It sounds like this is training that someone might not have to go through otherwise?
Oh, yeah, no. This is all optional. I mean, and even the state of Missouri, you don't even need a concealed carry license anymore to carry a weapon concealed. You can carry one, and if you obtain a concealed carry license in the state of Missouri, it actually gives you reciprocity in over 42 states to conceal carry your firearm in other states. So while you travel and are outside of Missouri, you can still legally carry your firearm, which is good. If you don't have a concealed carry license, then you're only, you can stay within Missouri and you can conceal carry your weapon. But there's a lot of rules and there's a lot of, a lot of stuff you need to learn, that you need to know if you're going to be a safe and educated gun ownership, because that's the difference. Being a responsible gun owner is about having all of those pieces, and more than anything else, the education. But what people don't understand about gun ownership is people think that, oh, I went to a class one time, I went through my concealed carry license, and I'm good to go. I never have to go through any type of training ever again, because
You're saying that's not the case?
that is the opposite of the case. When you get a driver's license, you go through a driver's license test, and maybe you sit through maybe a driver's education class when you're in high school, and then it's like you never go through any type of former driving education again, because you drive every day. You get that training, and you get those reps in how to be a safe driver every day. People don't do that with firearms, and so being a responsible gun owner means maintaining your weapon. That means going through additional training. That means going to the range early and often. Police officers are required to go to fire their weapon once a quarter. And it's usually an insignificant amount of rounds. It's not really training. It's just I'm making sure that the gun still works and I'm proving to somebody that I can shoot a target at a minimum distance. But the actual going to the range to qualify, that happens once a year.
Yeah.
So it's like, shooting is a skill that, that dissolves. It's that if you don't use it, you're going to lose it.
You need to keep it up.
Absolutely. And that's the part about gun ownership people always lose. That it's just, I can do this one time and I'm good, where it's actually the opposite. You need to have continual training all the time.
Your responsibility to be a safe gun owner continues.
Absolutely.
It didn't end when you were handed a piece of paper somewhere.
Absolutely.
All right. We have a guest on the phone. She is from St. Louis, and she has been through your training, Erica Alexander. Erica, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So tell me, what was your experience with this whole program with Raider Defense Group? Why did you pick up the phone and get involved in the first place?
Well, I had never really thought about it. It was never, ever something that I even thought about. I never grew up around guns. I didn't touch guns before my course and training. That was my first time shooting. So, but my deciding factor was a lot of violence that's around in my area, and me just overall wanting to feel safer. There's nothing that is guaranteed, but just a little safety for me.
Mm-hmm. And so did you also had some training for other people in your family?
No, never, ever.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you live with a child, is that right?
Yes, I do. Yep. A young adult now, yeah.
Okay. Did you tell your friends that you were thinking about buying a gun, and what kind of response did you get?
I did. A lot of my friends are not pro-gun in the home, definitely, and more importantly, not to carry on their person. It's like, why are you doing this? You're going to make yourself a target. So it was not a lot of welcoming comments, but, just based off of Chris explaining how everything worked, I felt more comfortable with being even able to explain it to my friends, and then, further explain why I think they should, if not with Chris, but just for themselves, just for the safety. When you
did this training, were you with anybody else?
Yes. My partner and daughter.
Okay. And so your daughter received this training as well. What did she think of it?
She's afraid of guns, but since they are in the home, it's something that was important to us, so that if she ever were to need to protect herself in that manner, she has the training to do so and feel comfortable. But she's not a carrier or anything like that.
Okay. Well, how do you feel about things now?
How do I feel about it?
If you got into this because you didn't feel safe, you said, has that changed at all?
Absolutely. Training, education first. So just a whole education piece, just broadening my horizon on that. And then secondly, the actual training just to get more comfortable. Like Chris mentioned, getting a driver's license, I can pass a test, but how am I going to handle this? How am I going to handle maintenance? How am I going to handle a jam, how am I going to handle different things? If someone's off in a distance that I could take as a threat or not, but how am I going to handle these situations? So definitely I feel, 100% more comfortable.
So some of that training, Chris, is about not just the specifics of handling firearms, but knowing when and why and how to use it or not use it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, and I have a lot of analogies when it comes to, firearm usage, but it's like the operation and the carrying of the firearm. That's one thing to learn. It's like when you start a new job, or say you start a new job at Taco Bell. It's going to be really difficult to figure out how to make that burrito. You're going to be you got to think about I need to grab this lettuce, I need to grab this beef. But then after maybe a week or 2 weeks, you're going to blindly make that burrito and talk about your plans on a weekend. And that's kind of how you have to be able to operate and use firearms. The inherent skill of shooting has to be there. It has to be drilled in. It has to be something that you can't think about, because what your brain has to process is, am I justified to make this shooting? Am I in the right? Am I in the wrong? Should I be retreating? Should I be advancing? Should I be taking cover? Your brain has to think about something else. The actual skill of putting in a well-placed shot and pulling that trigger and making the decision to pull that trigger, your brain has to be focused on that and not actually on the skill of shooting. And so, and that's, we drill in, we lay down a skill set, and then after we've drilled in the skill set, now we're talking about, are you legally justified? What are the ramifications if you pull this trigger?
There's been an assumption under a lot of this conversation, I think, that having a gun means that you're more safe. And I'm not sure that that's always the case. And I want to, Erica, give you a chance to answer this if you'd like, and also Chris. But statistics do tell us that when you bring a gun into the home, it is more likely to injure someone who lives there than an intruder. And those numbers are not ambiguous. That's been shown all the time. That's been shown through many different studies. How do you beat the odds there and make this weapon something that is protecting you rather than endangering you?
Well, for me, responsible gun ownership is not just about, everything we've talked about thus far, but mainly education comes around how to safely keep that firearm, because the numbers around that are coming from, I say more often than not, if I had the opportunity to check and recheck those numbers against persons who are just not educated and complacent in the actions of how and where they keep their firearms. I've heard some nightmare stories. And most of the nightmare stories that have came out of St. Louis have come from people who are not responsible gun owners.
Leaving it unlocked.
Yes, leaving it unlocked, leaving it accessible, leaving it, and then not only that, all of those pieces, plus just not being educated on the basic tenets of firearm ownership. And if you're not, and when I talk about gun ownership, I'm not talking about everybody I don't believe everybody should own a gun. I believe educated, responsible people should own firearms, and therein lies the difference. Because if everybody owns firearms, everybody's not educated. I don't think everybody should drive. I don't think everybody should be a radio show host. There's just certain things that everybody shouldn't do, and unless you go through the processes of taking that time, taking that training, gaining that experience, then you earn the right. And just like in everything else, I think we all earn the right to read. We all earn the right to, vote. With those rights and privileges. And all those rights and privileges should be one and the same. And so, yeah.
Erica, would you like to speak to that? Were you worried about bringing a gun into the home?
Originally, yes. After education, after training, no. I feel, very comfortable with having my firearm in my home with my daughter. I feel comfortable with that.
What changed over the time you've been thinking about it?
Just really the training, how to check to make sure, although you may drop or, just checking to make sure that there's not a bullet in the chamber, or, even if you, it's just the training. Yeah.
Okay. And did you discover that you maybe had some misconceptions about just what this was all about once you did have the training and did own a firearm?
Yes. It's the biggest thing would be that responsible gun ownership is not a bad thing. It's not a negative. It is for the protection, and it could be a save you, from life or death. It literally can save your life.
Mm-hmm. Chris, how many people have you trained?
Probably somewhere north of 75 clients.
Okay.
Yeah, since
is this your full-time occupation right now?
Not my full-time. It's just a part-time deal, and it ebbs and flows. Sometimes it's heavy, sometimes it's light, and I do it for fun. So it's not necessarily something that's needed, but yeah.
Okay. And I think your point is well taken a few moments ago that gun ownership isn't for everyone.
Yeah.
And there are statistics that can bear this out. Abusers are much more likely to use that weapon to hurt their victim than if they don't have it present.
Absolutely.
But there are ways to have it be safe in the home, have it be locked, and that it's a.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you earn the right to gun ownership. I think as Americans, we all have the right. We all have we all have the right to exercise this right. I think that's the difference. Having the right to exercise this right. It's like we all have the different rights that we get to exercise. But once you go through you gain a level of education, you gain a level of experience, and then, okay, now I can safely operate, safely handle, manage, protect, keep, store this firearm. And so, and I think that's the most important thing, and having it and being a firearm owner.
We do have to stop there. Thanks so much. This is a really interesting conversation. I want to thank Chris Randall, founder of Raider Defense Group, and thank you to one of his clients joining us on the phone, Erica Alexander.
This episode was produced by Maya Norfleet.
Our audio engineer is Aaron Dorr. Our production intern is Avery Rogers. This podcast was mixed and edited by Aaron. Our executive producer is Alex Hoyer.
St. Louis on the Air is a production of St. Louis Public Radio. Understanding starts here.
Our podcast proudly supports St. Louis artists by using music from Life Creative Group.
Do you find yourself regularly listening to episodes of St. Louis on the Air? Suggest us to a friend you think might enjoy our conversations. And leave us a review and rating on Apple Podcasts on the App Store. It's the simplest way to help people discover our show. Thanks.
St. Louis Public Radio is a member-supported service of the University of Missouri St. Louis.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, providing more than 41,000 jobs in the production of wood pallets, railroad ties, white oak barrels, hardwood floors, and more. Details at choosewood.com.